And joining me now from Washington is CBS News' digital managing editor for Politics, Will Rahn. Will, the president's got a historic low approval rating just 1 year into office. What do you think a win for him would look like tonight?
A big question there is just how willing the American people are, how willing they are to set the bar low for President Trump. We know that this is not the kind of venue in which he traditionally thrives. Trump is probably at his most compelling when he's speaking extemporaneously, off the cuff. When you watch him, when that suspense builds and you watch him see how far out onto the thin ice he is willing to skate. The State of the Union does not really reward that. What it rewards is caution. It rewards sticking to the script. It rewards sounding like a normal politician, sounding like a normal president, giving a normal address. The closer he gets to that, the better, the higher his grade will probably be.
You know, this afternoon, the president said that he wants to bring our country back from a tremendous divisiveness. Is that something you think he'll be able to achieve tonight?
I think most people in America have already kind of made up their minds on Donald Trump. He is, at heart, just a divisive figure. He's benefited from being a divisive figure. I don't think, regardless of what he says tonight, Democrats and Republicans are not going to be getting together and singing Kumbaya after this. Yes, there's some hope that perhaps an infrastructure package, an infrastructure deal can attract some bipartisan support, that they can move into some more bipartisan areas of agreement. But President Trump, I don't think, is ever going to be a guy who really unifies the country behind him, nor from a political standpoint is that really his agenda.
You know, the White House says they're going to ignore the Russia investigation and not address that today. It's hard to ignore that cloud. The White House says the president is going to move forward bipartisanship. Do you think that's the right tone to not address the Russia investigation at all?
Well, I think the argument could be made that the president is not at his best sometimes when discussing the Russia investigation. I think back to last year's speech to the joint session, his kind of dry run for a State of the Union address, which went over well. People liked it. He stuck to the script. He sounded normal. He sounded presidential. It was just about 72 hours later he was tweeting that Trump Tower had been wiretapped by the FBI. It's an issue that I don't think the White House wants to spend a lot of attention on. They don't want to put a lot of light on at the moment. What the White House and what the Republicans want to do is that they're doing the people's business. They're doing things that the American people want them to do. They're trying to force through bills that will help American voters, that will help the families and voters who voted for Donald Trump. The Russia thing they're trying to dismiss is immaterial to all of that. So it does make sense to really avoid the topic completely.
We also know Congressman Joe Kennedy will be giving the Democratic response to the president's address. He's one of at least 5 people, coming forward with a response following the president. What kind of a message do you think that they need to convey?
It's interesting for Joe Kennedy because it's a very hard thing to do, to compete with the grandeur of the State of the Union. A lot of political up-and-comers have tripped and fallen while giving responses to the President's State of the Union address. Then Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal had that remarkable, what seemed like an endless amount of time where he walked to the lectern, and that did real damage to his political standing when he decided to run for president. Marco Rubio, of course, interrupted his address to go and get a drink of water. President Trump mocked him for that throughout the campaign. So if you're Joe Kennedy, what you're trying to do is you're trying to introduce yourself. This is the first time most American voters have seen him. They know the name, but they don't know who he is. They don't know who Joe Kennedy III is. You want to be cautious. You want to get up there and you want to not screw up. You want to just look like a guy who's sober, who's serious, who has it together. But the biggest thing is just avoiding unnecessary errors. You don't want to have the own goals. You just want to keep it together.
Sometimes it's hard to do. You remember the Marco Rubio water bottle thing? I mean,
yeah,
there are just so many people. You look at Mr. Jindal. It could also be a bit of a curse, can it, Will, doing this sometimes?
That is the classic thing. Some people in Washington will occasionally say that they're always putting the politician forward who the party bosses want to kneecap, who they want to just kind of stop from really progressing in American politics. It's an enormously difficult thing to do. What a win for Joe Kennedy looks like tonight is he delivers a speech that's short, succinct, to the point, and people walk away saying, hey, that guy seemed okay. You just don't want to do any damage to your political branding, particularly when you're new on the scene like Joe Kennedy.
Yeah, drink water before you go, probably.
Exactly.
Well, the president also told news anchors today that oftentimes you do things that you would never do in business because you have to also govern with your heart. Does that signal to you a softening in his tone ahead of the speech tonight?
You know, the president has done this so many times before where he's kind of hinted that this is going to be a new Donald Trump, and occasionally you'll see these columns have popped up throughout the first year of his presidency. Oh, he's going this way. Oh, is this a Donald Trump? Donald Trump is Donald Trump. He's a man in his 70s. He's not going to change. He's the exact same guy. He'll give a speech tonight. He's going to be on Twitter tomorrow or the day after. We know what we're getting with Donald Trump. It's not going to be a whole new guy after this.
Will Rahn, thank you so much for joining us, Will.
Thank you.